Okay, so as Michael said, I'm going to talk today about how organisations can create tribes and create advocates around their products and their brands that will really help to sell your products for you. So I spend a lot of time thinking about, in this changing landscape that David and Jess have talked about, what makes organisations successful now and what's going to make organisations successful over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think it's good to start out with a question. Do we think that the companies that are going to be most successful over the next 5 to 10 years are going to shout at their customers? Like this? Or are they going to do things that make their customers happy and then turn those customers into advocates and tribes that will support their products and spread their messages for them? And I think the answer is fairly obvious. Our objective really should be to create things like, or create people like this. So this is a guy who is so into Mac products and Adobe products that he has taken a photo of himself with all of these products and uploaded it to Flickr. And I think this is an example of the power of these advocates. And I think our objective really as marketers and people that are using social media is to take this guy and turn him into this. We really want to have more and more of these people out there who are supporting us like that. So just to start out with, in terms of creating advocates, I think that no one's ever going to become an advocate for your brand or your product unless you're really making them happy. And I think that every day we all buy products from companies and they have this opportunity at each one of those interactions to make us happy, and I think so often they fail, and we're never going to become advocates for them until they can get this right. And just as a really simple example, last week we tried to buy an article from the Financial Review about the resurgence of e-commerce in Australia, and Fairfax just seemed absolutely determined to make it impossible. So this is the article, and it's a bit cryptic to start with, and then it gets more and more cryptic as you get closer to actually trying to get a subscription. And the whole process just makes you feel like this. And we ended up giving up and taking the article to the scanner and doing it that way. So Fairfax didn't get our $30. We wasted half an hour trying to buy it off the website. We wasted another 15 minutes trying to figure out how to use the scanner. And nobody wins in this situation, particularly when David goes on Twitter and says, tells the story, and his 350 Twitter followers see this, and they now have this idea about Fairfax that he's had a problem. And I think if you do a search for usability fail on Twitter, you would get a pretty good idea pretty quickly of the biggest problems that every big company in the world has. And I think it's a shame they don't do that more often. So, but this word of mouth power isn't just bad. I had a really good Amazon customer experience where I bought some books and they arrived 3 days later, which is pretty impressive considering they're coming from the US. And I didn't even get the super expensive express shipping. So, I went and tweeted about this myself, and now 220 people have seen this, and they're thinking about, the fact that Amazon is focused on giving a good customer experience. So I think that that's, quite a good example of that. I think this is a stock chart that shows the differing fates of Apple and Microsoft. And you can see Apple there is doing pretty well, and Microsoft is not doing very well at all. Apple's the blue line, Microsoft is the red line. And I think a big part of the reason for the difference in their fates is that, and their stock prices, is that Microsoft has never been able to make their customers so happy that they go out and advocate Microsoft products to other people. I mean, when was the last time that somebody came to you and excitedly told you about a new Microsoft product they'd just used? I mean, it doesn't happen. And I say this as someone who's been using Microsoft products since I was 10 years old. And Microsoft's really tried to solve this problem with advertising. And Crispin Porter did some great ads for them last year with Jerry Seinfeld, and they spent $300 million on media for just one campaign. But it's not addressing the fundamental problem, which is that they don't make customers happy at every step of the way. I think Apple's achieved the exact opposite. Apple has built this global network of advocates for their brand who go out and they've really got this idea right that every time someone buys a product from you or uses one of your services, you really have to make them happy. And I think that's why Apple has built this network of advocates, and that's why Apple's stock price over the past 5 years is up 940%, and Microsoft's stock price is down 17%. What does all this have to do with social media? Well, I think before social media came along, it was very difficult. Well, it was much harder for people to spread the word when they have good or bad experiences, and that's no longer the case because we have this. We have thousands of ways for customers to make their voice heard about the experiences they've had, and there's new ones popping up every day. And our challenge as digital marketers is really to find ways to use these channels, to help those customers. So I think there's three things specifically with social media that organisations can do to make customers happy. And just to start out with a really basic example is just listening to them. So here's some people, not Honda, some fans have set up this group for the Honda Civic Type R, and they're all on there asking questions, talking about the product. And I think that this kind of thing can be such a valuable way for organisations to learn, and people are actually really happy to discover that you're listening to them. So I think that's the first step. There's some great ways for organisations just to do this listening in really easy ways. So this is a Google News feed that we keep to see what people are saying about DTDigital. So this is for Twitter, and the same thing exists for blogs. So you can have every single time someone mentions your organisation name or your product name, it comes up anywhere on the web. It comes up in this list here for you to look at and learn from. I think the next level really is talking to customers, and it has to be done in this really genuine way. And Home Depot in the US have really got this right, I think. And they're actually actively talking to their customers on Twitter, solving their problems, helping them. And and that's turned out to be very powerful for them. And their customers then take those experiences and spread the word further. The next level from talking to them is really building relationships with them. And I think, here's an example I really like of this. JetBlue in the States have kind of started to master this. And so somebody said on Twitter, I want to make love to the JetBlue terminal, some random person. And they've actually gone in there and said, goodness, I hope you buy the terminal dinner first. And I think, that customer's going to walk away thinking, wow, that was great. This is an organisation that has some personality, and I now feel like I have a relationship with them. So, to achieve this stuff, you really do need to open your doors a bit. You can't be locking your employees up and hiding them from your customers. And, Tony Hsieh from Zappos has just walked away with $200 million in Amazon stock. Says, if you don't trust your employees to tweet freely, you actually have an organisational problem, not a problem with your employees. So, I think that's quite an important way to think. And in terms of building relationships, I think the dynamic here really needs to change from, the old customer relationship thinking, which is we will sell you stuff, to being more about, your company being out there finding ways to help customers, and they will actually then reciprocate and go out and find ways to help you. So there needs to be, a more serious dynamic there, I think.